What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Comic Breakdown. If you guys are new to the channel, do me a favor and hit that sub button, hit that notification bell, make sure you're not missing any of the awesome content that we have coming out. With this video, we are jumping into the brand new volume of Amazing Spider-Man with issue number 1. This is the brand new story arc of Peter Parker, a story written by Zeb Wells. The artist is John Romita Jr. And while Spider-Man's not something that we usually cover on this channel, I figure why not? It's an issue number 1, it's 8-issue miniseries, let's have a little fun, let's see what's going to be happening with Peter Parker. And while we don't usually cover Spider-Man comics, we have been covering all of the Venom, all of the Carnage. Carnage issue number 2 is absolutely amazing. You guys are not going to want to miss it. Be sure to buy the comic, support the industry, and with that being said, let's dive into this breakdown. Alright gang, so as we are celebrating 60 years of Spider-Man, we are getting our issue number 1 for 2022. This story is picking us up outside of York, Pennsylvania. Right now we see Spider-Man, he is in rough condition, looking battered, beaten, and bruised. We don't really know what is going on with Peter Parker. Whatever has transpired though, this puts him on the outs with everybody. And that's where the story picks us up 6 months later, giving us a huge, giant time leap. And we're going to talk about this time leap at the end of the comic and how it affects all the other current ongoing stories. But it picks us up with Aunt May and Peter Parker sitting down having a conversation. Up to this point, Peter Parker has told nobody about what has transpired, what caused him to get on the outs with everybody, why he has done everything he has done. Being very vague about this, it doesn't actually let us know what led to this whole very standoff confrontation even with Aunt May. And that is because Aunt May is the last one out here trying to help him, trying to understand what has been going on with him. And her, more than anybody, knows that he lies when he says that this is nothing. This is a very sad conversation because Aunt May is having a hard time having him over all the time, having to hear his excuses. Now, Aunt May is no stranger to people lying to her. She understands that sometimes that's going to happen. But right now, she believes him. She also knows that he's lying, so no matter how hard she vigorously tries to defend him, at the end of the day, deep down in her heart, she knows that Peter is continuously lying. Jumping us over to Alphabet City, Peter Parker is making his way home only to be met by a bill collector, letting him know that his time in the hospital, it caused a significant amount of debt. And because of this debt, they have sent this man. And though he is sitting here claiming to be a bill collector, I do believe that there is something much more sinister at play here. But right now, Peter Parker can't worry about that. He's got other things to concern himself with. More specifically, that is Randy. Now, at this point, Randy's trying to figure out what's going on with Peter as well. He more or less had fallen off the face of the freaking earth. Not so much as a goodbye or anything, leaving Randy to take care of all of these debts on his own. All of their rent, everything. And Randy really does try to have a little bit of conversation because Randy has every intention of trying to propose to Janice. He came to Peter Parker with this information, trying to get any kind of help because what he wants to do is go to Janice's father and ask him for permission. But Peter Parker is almost completely dismissive of him, letting him know that he just doesn't have time, that he wishes him the best of luck, that he truly is happy for him, but he just doesn't have time for anybody. And this is a relatively big deal because Randy is one of his best friends. And this is not the only person that he is on the outs with. He is on the outs with almost everybody in his life. And with Mary Jane no longer remembering their relationship because this was deleted by Mephisto. Peter Parker, he remembers. Every single day, he wants her back. He thinks about her. He even calls her. It gets a little bit stalkerish. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, we are having a sit down with the Rose and also Tombstone. Some of the big heavy hitters owning a lot of territory in this city. They have come together because the Rose is truly making a push for for absolute control. But before he can actually become Kingpin himself, they have to worry about Butch, because Butch is the new Kingpin. Ever since Wilson Fisk has left the city, disappeared, no one knows where to find him. There is a power vacuum that is currently going on. Gangs and territories are moving in, wanting to take this for their own. Tombstone, though, he doesn't care about any of this. The truth of the matter, none of them actually own real territory. And so, as Tombstone sees it, they are actually players in this game. With the Rose bringing in his heavy muscle, this is where we see Digger. And if Tombstone isn't going to see him as a real threat, that's exactly why he brought Digger along. He is looking to get some product and he wants it at a fair price. If Tombstone doesn't want to do good business, then he is just going to take everything over. With Tombstone really mulling this over, he lets him know 2 hours and gives him a location. As the Rose really makes himself a player in this game, we pick back up with Peter Parker, shaving off this beard that had grown for quite a while, getting back to that clean-cut look, thinking about what he is going to do next with his day. He looks down at the costume. He could go patrol. He could go out there and be Spider-Man, but he's not sure if he is ready for this. Going out onto the fire escape, looking out on this city, this is where he sees Johnny Storm. And we are seeing just how much he is on the outs with the Fantastic Four. Spider-Man hasn't been around for quite some time after he tried to steal from them, completely forgetting the fact that Johnny cannot turn down his heat. Reed and Sue, they no longer want him around the Baxter building. Peter Parker does feel justified in what he had done though. He had gone to the Fantastic Four seeking any kind of help. They were unwilling to do so, and because of this, he stole from them. Right now though, Peter isn't trying to hear any of this, jumping off the fire escape and taking off. We're seeing how much his relationships have truly been damaged, taking us over to Randy and Tombstone, sitting down with the father of Janice. Randy is asking if he can marry her. He is asking for permission from Tombstone, and Tombstone, he lets it be known, back in the day, we didn't ask for permission. We took what we wanted, and we were tested to see if we could keep it. Now, Randy, being more or less an innocent kid, he doesn't really want anything to do with that kind of life. Tombstone is really just messing with him because he knows more than anybody that Janice is going to do what she wants. He's also not trying to get on the bad side of Randy's dad. Peter Parker coming and checking up on this, making sure that everything went relatively smoothly. On the outside of this place, this is where he sees the White Rabbit. A bunch of goons are with her and they are loading up into a car. Not really sure what's going on, he is glad that he brought his suit with him. Suiting up as Spider-Man, he takes off, jumping up into the air and landing on the top of this car with absolute silence. He's gonna go find out where these guys are headed and why they are headed there, meeting up with a bunch of the Rose's goons. Inside the back of their vehicle, what we have is a goblin glider. And of course, this is when Spider-Man chimes in. Spider-Man on top of one of the vehicles that is very nearby. The Rose's goons recognize that this is a trap. This was a setup, at least by Spider-Man. Calling out Digger, we see Digger reach up from underneath the vehicle. Peter Parker's spider senses, they go off, but not in time. With Digger having his hands around the throat of Spider-Man, Peter has to think quickly, because if he doesn't, he's going to pass out in a matter of freaking seconds. He has no time to be quirky or cute. What he does is rips off the fingers of Digger. As all these goons begin unloading on Spider-Man, Digger, in all of his anger, he takes this truck and he flips it over. But in doing so, it causes an explosion and all of the money gets burned up to a crisp, rescuing as many people as possible. Webbing up the White Rabbit so she doesn't go anywhere, Digger is on the run. Spider-Man goes chasing after him, but searching all night long, he finds no sign of him. Taking us 4 hours later, Peter Parker is exhausted. He is burnt out, sitting here tired, beaten up, and ready to just get some sleep. He picks up his phone and he calls MJ. Usually she's not answering the phone, but this time she does. But MJ is letting him know that he has to stop, being very stern and letting him know, do not call again. taking us to a conversation with Tombstone and Hammerhead. The word is currently on the street that Rose is letting everybody know that Tombstone cannot run his own territory. The Rose plans to make his move, and all of the other bosses have all gotten in agreement that they are not going to be involved. They are going to let what happens happens. Hanging up the phone with Hammerhead, he goes inside to have a drink. In pouring this drink, he smells something, but by the time he smells it, it is already too late. We see a giant explosion from his building, something that is seen from all the way across the city. And in a vehicle nearby, we have Digger. Digger and the goons, they're the ones who did this, all under the orders of the Rose. This was the first strike. Unfortunately for the Rose, from the dust and these flames, we see Tombstone carrying his cat and himself out of this building. Taking us to the next morning, we're picking up with Peter Parker. He continues his same routine that he has done over and over and over. Wake up, get out there, fight some crime, look for a job. But every single day, he seems to find himself in front of MJ's building, wishing that he had any kind of good reason to be in this place, to be on this street. But while he sits here and looks up at this, while Peter stands here in the rain, this is where we see the arrival of Tombstone, pulling up, letting him know that he would like to have a conversation. With the Rose blowing up his house last night, he needs to get a message to Spider-Man. This isn't a proposition for any kind of team up. The Rose is from his world and he's going to handle it in his way. The message he wants to get out is that Tombstone is coming for Spider-Man, because this war that is about to happen, Tombstone holds him fully responsible. Spider-Man is the new project of Tombstone. Now Peter, he giggles at this. He finds this funny because he knows that Spider-Man has been looking for something. He has been dying to have something to do, and Tombstone is offering that up on a silver platter. Getting out of the car, he finds himself in front of MJ's apartment yet again, but this time he has himself a job, or at least something to do. With Peter walking away, up in the apartment of MJ, we see her in the window looking down on Peter Parker, but she is quickly interrupted by Paul, and Paul is the father to MJ's children, taking us over to Doctor Octavius. But Dr. Octavius is currently chained up, imprisoned by what we can only assume is the new Hobgoblin. And that will be the end of this issue. So let me know what you guys think down in the comments. It's nice to see Peter Parker back in the costume, back patrolling the city, and he already has his first fight lined up, that being Tombstone. We did get quite a significant time jump from Devil's Reign to more or less right where we are now 6 months later. There has been so much that has happened, which means we're probably going to get some flashbacks. We're going to be backpedaling just a little bit to find out what really caused Peter Parker to be on the outs with everybody. I am a little bit disappointed that the timeline isn't matching up with everything going on with comics currently. When you take a line like this and you jump so far ahead, things like Reckoning War, it gives away some secrets. Obviously, Reed Richards is alive. Now, we all knew that Reed Richards wasn't going to die. And if you're confused on what I'm talking about, you need to check out the Fantastic Four and the Reckoning War. Being imbued with the power of the Watcher, having all the knowledge of them, he only had a matter of days to die. The moon was completely destroyed. There's a lot of things that just aren't answered that are currently going on in the Marvel Universe. You throwing us 6 months into the future, you're more or less giving away the story and letting us know that everything is gonna be back to normal. And while that is the status quo, that is what we are used to, that's 99% of the time what they're going to do, at least have a little surprise, a little suspense for me. Outside of that complaint though, I am thoroughly enjoying this line so far. I am very excited to see where they're gonna take it. As we watch the Spider-Verse grow so much, from the clone of Spider-Man to Miles Morales, Marvel truly is doing amazing things with Spider-Man, and now that Peter Parker is back into the fray, we're gonna see what he's got. Let me know your thoughts, let me know your theories. If you would like to support the channel, you can always do so by hitting the Super Thanks button. This button will let you donate directly to the channel, and every little bit helps us out. Now, if you can't do that, do me a favor, subscribe to the channel, like this video, hit that notification bell, and until the next breakdown.